the reason we're really here tonight is for the very first annual Root Out Hunger event for Northwest Harvest. After 50 years, this is the very first such event, and we are delighted that so many people came out here tonight to be a part of it. I want to thank you tonight. You're bettering our communities and our neighborhoods here in Western Washington by taking part. And as most of you know, our Northwest Harvest was first established, if you did that 50th birthday math, in 1967 by a group of social activists who saw a need, saw an opportunity to help people who needed help, to provide those who were hungry with a meal, the most basic kind of things that humans do for each other. That's why Northwest Harvest was born. And 50 years later, they've become the largest independent provider of meals to those in need in this entire state. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. The person who's coming up next is quite a remarkable success story. And her journey illustrates that taking care of each other can have an impact that isn't just in the moment, but it's generational. Please give a very warm welcome to the operator of Toppenish Food Bank. Here is Cecilia Chavez. Sorry about that. We're going to put an escalator in next year. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing those pictures. Actually, made me so emotional. I see those faces every day. I was one of them, and I don't feel deserving to be here today, but I'm glad that I'm here today. And I want to thank you, everyone, for what you have done for us. And I'm going to try to be a voice today for those that are not here today. I was born in a small town in Mexico. My parents, neither of them went to school. They tried to move us to California in order for a better life. And from there, we moved to Toppenish, Washington. No, there was no money, no rent, couldn't find a place to rent. And we end up at the food bank. After Mass, a couple ladies told my mom about the food bank. We didn't know what the food bank was. We never heard about it before, but we decided to visit anyways. At the food bank, when we got to the food bank, the lady showed us around, asked us if we needed any food, and then she gave us the food, she gave us clothing. She also knew of a place that we can rent, and also she helped my mom with to find a place to work that was near us. We used the food bank for that winter. After the winter months, the next summer, my sister and I started working and helped my mom. My mom is a single mom of 6 kids. She learned English. At the same time, she was learning how to write and read. She got her GED. She got a license, her CNA license, and started working at the local clinic. And now she's a medical assistant. I finished high school, went into college. I finished with a BA in business administration. I'm married, I have 2 kids. And I'm still at the food bank. We never forgot about the food bank, even though we didn't use it anymore. We kept going back, we volunteer, we help with donations, and when the food bank needed help, guess it was gonna close, we got together, my sisters and I, my brother, we all got together, got the community involved, and we got it running again. And I've been there for 11 years now. We serve over 6,000 families every year. Of those families, 2,772 are seniors. Over 1,000 families are kids. Our town is not that big, so this is a big number for us, for the small town that we live in. most of our population is Hispanic, farm workers. Many of them barely speak English or couldn't write. Many of them don't know how to write either. But we're still there. And thanks to Northwest Harvest, I'm able to do this today. I'm able to help those families like my family. I see their faces every day, and to be there, to be able to provide that service, to be there with a smile is the greatest thing I can do. It gives me the pleasure of helping those that don't have a voice sometimes. Sometimes it's hard for some of those families to come and ask for help because they don't feel deserving. They feel like there's others more needy than them. So I'm there to tell them that I was there, I know, and if they can use it now and then they can give back later when they can. So I want to thank you again for everything you have done. I want to thank Northwest Harvest for this day, for getting me here today to be the voice, and thank you again.
Here at Northwest Harvest, we know that fighting hunger requires more than just feeding the hungry. We know that eliminating hunger requires addressing the root causes. Advocacy on behalf of low-income people has always been part of Northwest Harvest work. We actively engaged in advocacy to promote investment in public structures that aid to eliminate hunger, both by providing access to nutritious food and basic economic security for low-income families. We regularly provide input at the state and at the national level to legislators on hunger issues. As you've heard Cecilia say, and as we said in that video, in many ways, we are the voice of those who all too often do not have a voice. We work to raise public consciousness about the extent of hunger in Washington, and that it takes combined efforts of charitable giving and public safety net services to eliminate hunger. So as you saw in the video and as you've seen pictures, and for those of us who were very lucky to get to know her, Ruth Veloso was an amazing person. Mike, you described her as a bulldog, and she had that side to her. But she was a tireless advocate for those who have no voice in our system. Every person who came to Cherry Street Food Bank looking for a meal not only left with food, but they also left with their dignity. She saw the good in every person that came to her in their greatest time of need. She didn't care where they came from. She didn't care how old or how young they were. She didn't care what color their skin was. She didn't care how much money they had or didn't have in their pocket. She treated you with respect. And she was always proud to serve the most vulnerable in our community. She was all about making a positive impact. And it's with that spirit that I'm honored to present the Ruth Veloso 2017 Northwest Harvest Award to the Senior Medical Director of Odessa Brown Children's Clinic, Dr. Benjamin Danielson. Come on up. So your work on childhood nutrition and just all the work that you do is absolutely amazing, Dr. Danielson. We are so grateful that you call this community your home. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you so much. This is really incredible. And I don't just mean this award. I got to share this amazing night with all of you and all of these incredible folks. I came into this evening feeling a bit unworthy of this kind of recognition. I know so many of you who do so much more work in this field and try so hard to change our communities and improve them. I certainly don't feel I even hold a candle to so many of you. I just heard the words of a woman who earns this award probably every single day, so much more than I do. Cecilia, you are an amazing, amazing human being. But I like the idea of Ruth. I like thinking about Ruth Veloso. I was raised by a hippie mom, a radical, an activist, and you know, my mom would love Ruth, wouldn't she, Kim? My mom would love Ruth. Our clinic is all about quality care with dignity, and when I hear that word dignity come out in this venue, I just know, I know that Ruth is a soul sister of Odessa Brown and Blanche Levizo and all those amazing, amazing strong women that helped our community lift up and rise up and provide for the families and kids that needed her most. I also know, or I've learned tonight, that Ruth might not love this. She might not love this kind of space. I learned from a new friend that she's not a big fan of big celebrations and things like that. She just wants to get it done. It makes me love her even more. Bittersweet. I think she might also feel a little bit bad that we are 50 years on and we're still doing this work. I think that's important too. That sense that of unease, of impatience, of a burning desire that just doesn't go away. That sense that 50 years is a great reason to celebrate. In 50 years, it feels like we should have been there by now. So I'm so honored to be even associated with Ruth Veloso and the work that Northwest Harvest does. I'm really nervous, so I wrote down words. I hope it's okay if I kind of read them to you so I don't get them wrong. Our clinic's been around for just 2 years less than Northwest Harvest, 48 instead of 50. And our clinic exists in sistership with Northwest Harvest. We're about supporting communities just like Northwest Harvest. And we understand that in supporting communities, there's a fundamental, inescapable hierarchy of needs. That we can't expect to see success in some fancy evidence-based asthma plan or some behavioral therapy when a child's life is dominated by food insecurity. We work with schools, especially the ones that face a lot of kids who've seen trauma. And we try to help them navigate the behavioral concerns that come with kids exposed to those kinds of toxic stress. One teacher at one of these schools was sharing how much she has to deal with disruptive behaviors in some kids and how hard it was to get them to pay attention. She invited one of our staff members to observe the class and help think about behavioral health solutions for these children. So our clinic worker sat in the class and heard some of the disruptive behavior that the teacher was talking about. And then the teacher said, "See what I mean? I can't teach with these constant disruptions. We need to curb their behavior, and we need to get them to sit still and pay attention. They need behavioral therapy." And our clinic worker shook her head, and she said, "No, they don't. We need to feed them." These kids were hungry. And it didn't take a whole amount of great insight to know this. They were saying so. We're hungry. I'm hungry, these kids were saying. And in saying that, they were disrupting the class, of course. The teacher's a wonderful teacher. She cared about doing the best possible job she could. So she was especially prone to notice disruptive behavior, but maybe she missed the very basic message that their behavior did not derive from some vexing mental health condition. It came from hunger. Food was too scarce at home, and often they were not arriving in time for school-based breakfast. It came from hunger. But once we got some programs in place to allow them to eat in school, and I have to tell you that was a big culture change for this school, And once the school embraced having food around for those kids, they started paying attention, they started listening. This was not a mental health problem, this was a hunger issue. A child can't learn, they can't feed their minds if their stomachs are empty. And it goes further than that when you think about community hunger. A parent can't always be the nurturing first and best teacher of their children if that parent's home and life is subsumed by food insecurity. Our clinic exists in sistership with Northwest Harvest because we have learned the lesson that Northwest Harvest has been teaching and solving for 50 years and in 375 different locations. That food is elemental to the thriving of communities. Food is foundational to every other thing you may want to do to lift up communities. There's a Seattle Times article from October 7th, 2015, and in that article, there's this picture of a beautiful woman, a beautiful smiling woman. And sometimes it feels like a picture can convey so much, even though it only possesses 2 dimensions. What I saw in that picture from October 7th, 2015, was a person whose warmth and love emanated from the page. A person who transcended time, transcended 2 dimensions to kind of reach you and let you know who they were. It takes a special person to do that. And of course, that article was about Ruth Veloso. Ruth Veloso believed that anyone who sought help deserved it. That was the first line in this article. Anyone who sought help deserved it. And my mind lingered on that sentence for a long time. Everyone who seeks help deserves it. No judgment about the person's worthiness. No requirement that someone pass a test or prove their worthiness of our generosity. I think that's an amazing thing. And in these days of categorizing and othering and deciding who is deserving of our compassion and whose background is just right and who looks just right, in this time of all those qualifiers placed on our generosity, she is saying to us, anyone who seeks help deserves it. This is a simple and pure sentiment that doesn't ask us to wring our hands or wrinkle our brows or balance our moral scales. Anyone who seeks help deserves it. An expression that just barely parts the curtain and reveals who Ruth is, reminds us what it means to convey pure compassion, to display the most real and undiluted form of humanity. This is a centering sentiment. If we pause in our busy lives and peeled away the complicating layers that can cocoon and paralyze us, we could fulfill our intention to be each other's beacons of hope. Ruth is the kind of person so many of us haven't gotten a chance to know, yet have known deeply all of our conscious lives. She's the conscience that lives in each of us, our most fundamental selves, our best selves, our purest conscience. I'm greatly envious of those of you who knew Ruth well. But in a way, my envy changes to a comforting sense of familiarity when I think about that picture of her smiling and all that picture conveys in such a simple, direct way. And all that sentence in that article says, anyone who seeks help deserves it. My envy has changed to comforting familiarity because I do know her. I know her clear and undeniable message. It's a message that resides in each of us. I know her as I know what each and every one of us has the potential to be. Caring, compassionate, purely giving people who recognize the humanity in every person around us. Caring, compassionate, giving people who don't ask someone to pass a test before earning our generosity. Ruth is every one of us as our best selves. And I think in these days of discord, of polarization, of unkind talk, I meant to say talk, not tweets. In these days of bullying and bluster and layers of untruth. In these days when established commitments to help out our fellow human being are being threatened and unwound and undone, in these days more than any other in my time, we need so much to tap into the parts of ourselves that are truly our best selves. We need to cultivate and enable and activate the part of ourselves that Ruth told us resides within each and every one of us. Not far below the surface layers of us that are subsumed by the worries of the day and the confusion brought on by the problems that can inundate and paralyze us. We need to draw on the purely compassionate code that Ruth named, but that we all own, because our communities can't wait. Our communities can't wait. Because as a pediatrician working in a community clinic, I know that we owe more to the families that we see every day. Our communities can't wait. They can't live in uncertainty, in the uncertainty of food insecurity. We know our communities can't wait. We can't promise to feed a child later, at some uncertain time in the future, once we've vetted the worthiness of their need, asking for an improvable proof of worthiness. Ruth saw through that. She knew it was unacceptable that so many lack nutrition in a place where feeding everyone is well within our grasp. That worrying about the next meal, even if it comes through every time, is in and of itself an insidious and unhealing wound that festers and erodes one's health. Ruth knew what we all know if we take time to consider. She knew that we don't need to wonder if someone is worthy of our help. They just need that we act. And in acting without asking someone to pass a test, we reaffirm our own humanity. I speak to you tonight so much about Ruth because, well, partly because I suppose I recognize that I don't deserve an award created in her name. Rather than recognize it as an award, I will accept this on behalf of our clinic as a challenge to try to answer Ruth's challenge to all of us. Everyone who seeks help deserves it, and our simple task is to rise up and to say yes, without question, without hesitation, without qualifiers. Just think what kind of a world we would give ourselves if we did that. Thank you very much.
It's always a bit nerve-wracking to put together a first-time event, 50 years in the making. But together here tonight in this room, you gave to Northwest Harvest $393,550.
Look at that.
That's you.
Wow. And Chris and I are going to toss our fees in there as well, so that's another $20 right there.
Add that onto the ticker.
Thank you, everybody. What a night. This really means that a lot fewer people are going to go to bed hungry tomorrow night and the night after and the night after that. And if we keep doing our part, we can realize our vision of ending hunger altogether in Washington State, so we don't even have to have a night like this.